Hey everyone, welcome back to Hot Tea, where the tea is hot and so are you. Today we have a follow-up to our DissociaDID video from a few days ago. In that video, we mentioned DissociaDID and BraiDID shared a 4.5-hour live video addressing questions and concerns from DissociaDID subreddit. Well, I watched it so you don't have to, but if you have the time, I encourage you to watch the video independently. Be sure to check out our first video on DissociaDID for most of what we're going to be talking about today. Again, it's a long video, so reviewing it will also take some time, but I'll try to be detailed to get speedy. Feel free to share your opinions on the following controversial opinion if you get bored. It doesn't matter which way the toilet paper is facing. Trigger warning, the topics addressed include suicide, CP, racism, violence, and death. I know that you guys don't usually like it when we have some disclaimers and stuff at the beginning, so I'll try to make this really quick, but I do think that it's really important to say that BraiDID and DissociaDID have a lot of respect from me for sitting down and filming this. Regardless of the opinions of others regarding validity of statements, it is still incredibly vulnerable, emotional, and exhausting to talk about all this stuff, and they brought up some super tough stuff as well. There were no unnecessary insults. Also, the friendship is so sweet, and the way that they care for another is so cute.
Can I pop in real quick? I can see there's stuff going on. Do you want to drink some water and I can take over talking for a second?
Try and eat something if you feel that you can. It's all tied up together and it's a lot.
It's a lot, yeah. I really like your hair down.
Thank you. Thank you for being with me this whole time. This has been the most boring 4.5 hours for you ever. You're
no, not at all.
Friend ever to have friended. Ever.
I want you to do me a favor. I pulled up some royalty-free music and let's do a little mini dance party.
Okay.
We did it!
Is this the success we're moving forward with live dance?
That said, I do critique some of the responses, but I want to be clear first and foremost that this was a very respectable thing that they did. Also, to reiterate from the last video, since some of you guys missed it, we know that most of this is not tea and mental health is not something that we take lightly. Before we get into the video, make sure to hit that subscribe button, like this video, and ring the notification bell. Also, you guys can follow us on Twitter for any updates on the latest tea and to also let us know any topics that you want us to cover. Okay, so let's get into it.
I'm Charlie. This is Cora. I'm the host of the BraiDID System. We're here with Kaya from the DissociaDID System.
My name is Kaya. I'm the fusion of Nin and Kyle.
They say that their former friends' perspectives have been public for a while, and while Nin felt a responsibility to be quiet, Kaya does not share that belief. Now they just want to share their side so people can choose who to believe, if anyone. They just want their side to be out there as well. They don't want these same questions thrown at them for years, and as we all know, the internet never forgets. Sometimes it doesn't even forget things that aren't even true or have been manipulated into something else. Give the internet ingredients to make a bowl of cereal, somehow they come back to you with a goddamn family buffet. They first address statements from the Entropy System, who has not been shy with criticism of DissociaDID despite being a former close friend, especially in regards to Team Pinata and DissociaDID's suicide attempt and subsequent hiatus from the internet. They first discussed the specific verbiage used to share news of the incident, which was, "Hey guys, it isn't our intention to worry you, just update you, we're okay. We had a very close call with a suicide attempt and won't be online until we recover. Take care of yourselves, stay home, ignore the targeted defamation and disgusting false claims being spread online. We'll try to stay alive, we love you, stay safe." Kaya said,
I do remember that we said something absolutely ridiculously overdramatic, and as soon as I read back on it, I was like, what the fuck was that? That's just awful. I think it does say a lot about how concerned we were about the community and how much we cared about the community, that one of the first things on our mind was we need to let people know where we're going and what's happened.
And the Entropy System later came forward to say that they had discouraged your system from posting this and showed screenshots of a conversation with you all that basically insinuated that your system had made that post to show the realities of the effects that trolls' actions can have upon a creator.
She said that she posted about an attempt because she thought that trolls should know the consequences of their actions. That is something that troubled us deeply.
Didn't it say a comedy in the actual upload? No, not in the initial one, because we wanted to troll the trolls. We really wanted like the people who are like trying to suck us dry for drama to like get farted on. I don't know. Like, it's a joke. It was a joke to troll the trolls, and it worked because Kiwi Farms lost their fucking minds over watching them implode over this video that was just gonna be a funny video. It was so cathartic.
Trolls were not on our mind, and it was extremely hurtful.
Regarding the attempt, Entropy apparently said that this is stuff that you keep private, which is confusing since Entropy also said that they needed to come back to talk about it.
As DissociaDID, we were supposed to, negate the stigma around suicide and stuff like that, hiding it and being ashamed of it and telling other people that they shouldn't talk about it. But we didn't agree with that. And they said, well, what about trolls who have hurt you? Are you just doing it to make them feel bad?
It was a joke to troll the trolls, and it worked.
Nin responded with something along the lines of like, we're not going to censor ourselves and pretend things that have happened haven't happened in case somebody gets upset. If they get upset, that says something about them and how they've been treating people. But it's not our responsibility.
Honestly, this doesn't sound unreasonable. Kaya says Entropy went straight to Twitter, where DissociaDID doesn't check frequently, and didn't even try to talk to DissociaDID before posting their statement, which read, "Now that I have nothing more to lose, I think I'm going to say what so many people have been afraid to say. Nin, you need to come back. You left us at the peak of catastrophic drama without a word. People turned to other YouTubers for an explanation. Some were sympathetic, many were angry, hurt, confused. Your radio silence and our lack of comforting answers caused the flames to rise and made us all targets. All we needed from you was to address what happened, what you did and did not know." This was regarding the Team Pinata situation, and tell us that you needed some time to figure out where to go next. Since the beginning, the YouTube community has been committed to assuaging fear and creating safe spaces above all else. It feels like all that we built is currently in flames. I've been doxxed many times, I've had hate campaigns against me, I know it's scary, but you made people care for you, showed yourself in distress, and then vanished. We've been picking up the pieces ever since. The damage is devastating. You need to own this. They later followed up with, Nin asked me to take down my tweet and we had a serious talk about everything in private. I think we both gained a better understanding of each other's situation. Thank you for understanding why that all zigzagged so quickly.
Nin do. Trauma that came her way, she stirred it up. She made it worse. She manipulated people. She did bad shit. A disclaimer on the title would have been appropriate. A lot of people got anxiety from it. I know, and I do feel bad for the people who felt anxiety over it. But we needed this. I'm sorry.
I'm really curious to know what you guys think about this because I'm honestly very confused. To rewind just a bit, DissociaDID posted saying that they were taking a break on April 8th, popped in to announce their lack of support of Pinata's actions on April 14th, and Entropy posted their statement on May 23rd. Nin didn't leave without a word and did say that she was unaware of what was going on with Nan's CP and did tell people's DissociaDID needed time offline and would be away. Also, no matter what someone does to welcome any level of public notoriety, a well-known person is still a person, and no fan, no matter how well-intentioned, is entitled to energy being spent trying to get mental health in order, especially at such a severe time. I just feel like this was really unfair, especially when DissociaDID was off Twitter at the time and Entropy didn't even try bringing it to Nin first.
You are just going to notice a pattern of people very clearly going around instead of having a conversation with y'all about issues that they had.
Yeah, like we never knew that they posted that on Twitter.
Someone is doing something that, like, as a response you are feeling uncomfortable, it's your responsibility to make yourself feel comfortable again. Emotional well-being is up to you. And if something is that distressing to you online, like, it's important to step away from the interwebs. I encourage you to do what you need to do in order to separate yourself from that.
The second question was, why did you stay offline when fans began to be outwardly concerned for your safety? I feel like this is a question that should answer itself. They weren't responding to people sharing their worries online because they were offline, but the answer was a little more in-depth and interesting. They stayed away for so long because of, you guessed it, fettuccine. If you don't know who that is, go watch the first video that we made about DissociaDID. This was around when they originally started working together. Apparently, Fettuccine felt it necessary to tell Nin every time anyone said anything nasty about DissociaDID. Despite Nin asking, he only let her know if something was said that was absolutely necessary for her to know. but apparently he felt sharing hurtful gossip and reminding Nin that all of her friends were betraying her was far better. Kaya said that he kept telling them he was the only person they could trust, and from what was shared, it sounds like perhaps his intention was to isolate DissociaDID and make them depend on fettuccine and only fettuccine. Now, I'm not trying to be overly critical or nitpicky here. This actually isn't even a criticism, but I find it interesting that Kaya first said that they shared about their attempts because one of their first thoughts was to make sure no one in the community was worried. But a few minutes later, the answer to the next question includes, "We appreciated everyone worried about us, but the last thought on our mind was updating everyone to tell them we were okay." If they needed to stay offline and not think about anyone else, that's exactly what they should have done, and I'm glad they did because eventually they began the healing process. I just find it interesting how much and how quickly their concern for keeping people updated had flipped a 180. People have given a lot of criticism to DissociaDID for claiming they were on the brink of homelessness when asking Patreon members for money. Apparently, DissociaDID's landlord decided to sell the building and gave very little notice to tenants that they would need to move out. This was around the same time as the Pinata situation and attempt when their popularity was beginning to increase, but they didn't have a ton of YouTube money coming in, which many people assumed that they did.
There was a time when your system was unable to meet some Patreon tier reward, and your system told patrons that they were helping you to eat and pay rent, and that otherwise your system would be homeless. Later, financial records were revealed that alleged that this was less likely to be the case. You probably weren't going to be homeless.
We were very worried about, whether we were going to be able to afford somewhere with such short notice. And we'd spent a lot of money on sort of like a notice to marry and visas and stuff like that, which fell through. We didn't have that much. So yes, we were worried about it.
Also, they were prioritizing mental health and were not able to work at this time, so it was really bad timing for such a stressful situation. Someone leaked financial records of DissociaDID Ltd's bank account, which gave people the idea that they had plenty of money. However, DissociaDID Ltd wasn't established until August 2020 after the situation occurred. As of August 2021, DissociaDID's asset totaled over £36,000. Patreon funds typically went to savings for projects like the Anthony Padilla interview, but at this time, funds were going to all basic needs so that they could take care of themselves, and most people were happy to help. Nin did her best to notify everyone of the changes that were being made and was criticized for having high-level tiers activated while not releasing anything new. But people had the choice to stop paying, and when you're paying for a certain tier, you also have access to the older contents from that tier level. So there was still stuff that people were going to see, especially if they were new patrons. Nin also posted offering refunds to anyone who asked. Someone found a chart with alleged YouTube earnings, but I can't find the source for it, and I'm skeptical to think that it's legitimate. And when I asked, someone responded that it came from Granddad's Lounge, who said that he got it from court documents. I have not been able to verify that. I am especially skeptical because it shows them getting nearly £40,000 from Anthony's video, which I find incredibly difficult to believe. This chart also shows them ending 2020 with over £100,000 earned from YouTube. I guess it's possible. Unfortunately, I can't go back far enough to look deeper into this. Then again, court documents showed DissociaDID reported a loss of £100,000 due to videos being taken down until the next hearing. I also noticed that the day after this video with BraiDID was released, DissociaDID lost 10,000 subscribers and have lost 30,000 in the past 30 days. Depending where you read, a lot of people make it sound like Nin struck Granddad's Lounge channel because of copyright and bullying claims that were illegitimate. Up on the screen, you will find the letter from YouTube after the strikes were first filed and YouTube manually reviewed the content. YouTube responded that they were afraid that she did not have the right to claim copyright due to fair use, especially on the grounds of transformative purposes such as news reporting, parody, commentary, or review. Nin responded, and I wasn't able to find the full letter, but I read a few pieces circumstances of the interactions surrounding the claims. It's just a series of snippets and screenshots, but I was able to piece together this. To whom it may concern, I strongly believe my copyright is being infringed by this user. Under fair use, in some situations, copyrighted content can be used for criticism, review, quotation, parody, character, and even pastiche. However, this situation far exceeds all of these, and I do not believe it can be classified as fair use, as explained below. My content is being savagely manipulated, twisted, and edited by this user in ways that seriously defame both my character and that of my brand, making horrendously triggering and repulsive claims about extremely serious and sensitive topics. These topics include LGBT+ relationships, cult activity, satanic abuse, child porn, and child abuse. As a vulnerable person, the use of my content in this way is grievously harmful to me and other vulnerable communities. It has been particularly destructive to me as I am a survivor of child abuse, sexual abuse, and domestic abuse. This user repeatedly leverages my copyrighted content to create and promote grotesque conspiracies about my history of abuse, and then I assume she wrote something about this being outside the allowances for claiming fair use. I don't know. While fair use does cover most of her claims and Grandad's Lounge is still live, this does not mean that YouTube sided with Grandad's Lounge as most say. Kaya also explained that the reason the channel strikes didn't get Grandad's Lounge channel suspended was because this was happening at the same time as the Fettuccine legal drama was starting, and Nin chose to focus on that.
The only reason that it was put back up was because we didn't take legal action, not because YouTube deemed that it was fair use. We've got to prioritize what's going on here. This guy's trying to ruin our life, whereas this guy's just making an arsehole of himself. I'm going to focus on this one over here, who's not being very nice, and we have to focus on him.
Kaya said Nin struck Grandad's Lounge. Grandad's Lounge filed a counterclaim, and because DissociaDID then did not take Grandad's Lounge to court and drop the issue, YouTube did not take down content or intervene further, as it would be up to the person who filed the copyright claims to do so. This is not what Grandad's Lounge said. He said DissociaDID actually went nutty, striking me 6 times, 5 of which I've won, and number 6 should be done tomorrow. Now YouTube are investigating her for the system and threatening to delete her channel / permanent demonetization. Then hinting at their leave of absence, saying convenient timing, am I right? I have not found any proof to indicate YouTube was investigating her for abusing the system, and considering that this was quite a while ago, it is curious that nothing has come out of that investigation, even though Grandad's Lounge was very confident that he would be the champion. Kaya explains that they do not have an issue with people using clips from the videos for commentary, and named a few channels that she has never struck, such as Vangelina, who frequently discusses DissociaDID.
But the fact that he was using our content as a weapon or a tool, essentially, against these people was absolutely not okay with us. We make our content and have always made our content to help people.
This is a little contradictory to what is in the letter, and is possibly this to save DissociaDID from looking petty, but it also isn't an unrealistic concept.
You can hurt us with it all you want. That's fine. Do that. We won't have any issue with it. We never have. Use it to attack us? Sure, fine. But don't attack other people with stuff that we've made.
Also, Grandad's Lounge has been shown to be a really unkind individual. Recently, it was revealed that he was flirting over text with Bobo and co. while cuddling his then girlfriend Holly. And he said that he doesn't even think Bobo is hot, so he doesn't know why he did it. He has a history of being misogynistic. His relationship with Holly seems to have ended. The next question was, why didn't DissociaDID step in when others were being cyberbullied by fans in DissociaDID's name? Their response was basically, we did, and this is true. They released several statements requesting fans to stop bullying people, and yes, some comments they liked were morally questionable, but they did beg people to stop bullying in their defense, as they do not support that behavior. Also, the screenshots from a chat allegedly showing DissociaDID encouraging bullying were fake, and that was proven a long time ago. Kaya mentioned they felt they had gone above and beyond what they've seen other creators do by creating an email where they would receive notices that one of their fans was bullying someone and they'd step in, but someone was subscribing that email address to triggering content, so they couldn't check that inbox anymore. To anyone who did that, like, why? That is so unnecessarily vindictive and evil. Don't trigger people on purpose. That is sick. The next section was about DissociaDID's racist comments. To be frank, I was surprisingly off-put and disappointed by some aspects of this response. The question, of course, asked about DissociaDID using the terms Black, Native American, and Asian as physical descriptors for alters. From everything that we looked at last time, it does seem that DissociaDID at least tried to apologize and educate themselves to some degree. The acceptance of that apology varied, but an apology was made, and this has been touched on many times before. However, the question also addressed the body being adorned with turquoise and feathers in the hair when Nadia was fronting. Before addressing anything, Kaya jumped to point out that actually they never wore feathers in their hair.
We've never worn feathers in our hair. Nadia hasn't either, but she did in one video wear a feather earring. So it might have looked like feathers in her hair, but she also, I think she had her hair down on one side, so if she turned her head, you would be able to see it was a feather earring.
I tried to do some research about this, but it proved inconclusive, so if you have knowledge of Native American culture, is there a difference in wearing a feather as a hair accessory or as jewelry, as long as it's not an eagle feather? It seemed like Kaya thought that somehow Nadia wearing the feather as an earring absolved her of any wrongdoing for the person who brought this up, and I know there are a lot of mixed opinions on cultural appropriation, but what do you guys think? Also, the drawings of Nadia have feathers in the hair, so I am wondering if DissociaDID had a feather hair accessory, would that have been worn? Maybe I'm thinking too much about this, but it just felt very strange that the part of responding to this was getting defensive and arguing about a detail that possibly doesn't make things any better. Although honestly, it is fairly common for DissociaDID to start an apology with a defense or correction, or to say something like, sorry, but ABC. Kaya also said the jewelry was a gift, which again, I'm not sure what purpose that serves as justification, or maybe they just want to get all the facts straight. But I'm not sure that's worth arguing. It seems almost like a distraction and a way to avoid talking about more important issues with Nadia that have been yet to be addressed. You may have noticed one of two comments on the apology post was addressing the problem with the sexualization of Indigenous women. DissociaDID has addressed a lot about how they were incredibly ignorant to think that Black was just referring to skin and Asian or Native American could just refer to facial features, and that they have learned that this is not at all the case. That's great. It's great they took the time to look further into that issue, but I'd love to hear them talking about the sexualization of Nadia. The commentator responded to the part of the apology where DissociaDID wrote, I thought it would be personal and harmless to identify as I felt comfortable, by saying it's not, it contributes to the epidemic of missing and murdered Indigenous women. Indigenous intergenerational trauma is a real problem partially because of this. I get that you are British and far removed, so maybe this just doesn't matter to you, but in my country, everyone knows someone who's gone missing or been murdered because of colonial sexual of Indigenous women. There's so much more to this issue than what is being addressed. It's great they are willing to own up to their mistake and apologize for their ignorance, but I don't feel better when they say they've been educated when there's so much they're still ignoring. It's not like this hasn't been brought up to them over and over. It was even in this question, just not in the response.
I'm more straight, quite like very slender, willowy, you've got small boobs,
So why does she have cleavage like that? This gives me flashbacks to the unnecessarily large-chested lady in Beauty and the Beast. Absolutely ridiculous. Nadia said that she likes to wear things she feels free to move in, but one wrong motion in that outfit and she'd be naked.
It's co-opting experiences and identities that the host, the body, never experienced. Co-opting something as sensitive as race is, in fact, inherently racist.
Kaya also talks about the deleted comments and their post after George Floyd was murdered. First, Kaya said that they will always hold themselves accountable and apologize as many times as necessary for being ignorant and using words that have cultural meaning as simply physical description. However, I'm not convinced their actions match that claim. The George Floyd post, which they've said was an educated risk to share, but they were horrified by what they were seeing and wanted to use their platform for something good, and that's why they briefly came back to post resources and voice their support for Black Lives Matter. They said they apologized in any comments, calling them out for former racist behavior, which they're always willing to do, and the only comments deleted were triggering and unnecessarily aggressive, just like they would on any post and from any person. Comments deletion was not based on race. They weren't trying to silence anyone, but wouldn't be able to interact with a comment section if there were triggering messages still posted. Around this time, it was reported that Nin had a conversation about the comments being deleted with a system of caller Axolotl. During this conversation, Nin said, "Our lives matter too," which was very reminiscent of the All Lives Matter movement, and obviously many people were incredibly unhappy to hear of that statement from DissociaDID. Kaya explained that it was admittedly incredibly poor wording, which Nin apologized for almost immediately, which was later confirmed by Axolotls.
First of all, I want to say that was a stupid thing to say and incredibly bad wording. What we actually said was our life matters too, our life singular, about our system. We were talking to Axolotls system about what we just explained about having some filters on the Instagram comments for that post. So for example, anything that was really nasty we would delete, and they were like, "Are you silencing people?" And we were trying to explain that no, we're not. There are loads of discussions about race and racism, and also about us.
Next, they addressed some TikToks, starting with this one.
Thank you.
For you, my lady.
We can work on the gag reflex.
Kaya said the response, which was, "We'll have to work on your gag reflex," was not meant to be sexual, and people did that in their own minds. Honestly, I had to pause the video to roll my eyes because how can it not even occur to you that something like that wouldn't be taken sexually? This is actually another thing that we have seen before from DissociaDID. They'll do something flirty or thirst trappy and then tell people to stop sexualizing them without permission. I feel like a lot of arguments could be made about that topic. They also talked about their thirst traps and owning sexuality. I agree with Kaya and Charlie that it is very important, especially as an SA survivor, to own your sexuality and be confident in your own body. I'm pretty sure some people do have a problem just with the sexual aspect of thirst traps alone. But what I have personally seen people talk about most with the thirst traps and flirty TikToks is obviously age, which I'll get into, but also the fact that it's an inappropriate parasocial relationship. One could argue, well, this is not DissociaDID's TikTok, it's Kaya and Co. It's not a professional TikTok. And sure, that's true, and everyone should feel free to express themselves and post what they want online. However, I wonder, is it even possible to be a public figure on social media and have a personal account that is kept separate? Obviously, this is a super exaggerated example just to explain, but imagine if Justin Bieber tried to say his public Instagram is personal and not to associate what he does on there with Justin Bieber the artist. I can't imagine anyone being able to split those things, especially if Justin Bieber told people on Instagram to listen to his music, like Kaya has commented on TikTok to watch the videos on DissociaDID's YouTube. People can barely separate the character from the actor sometimes. While Kaya and Charlie commented on parasocial relationships, the responsibility was placed onto the fans to act more appropriately and adjust their expectations.
There are a lot of issues with parasocial relationships that people need to take their own responsibility for.
There is a lot of unhealthy parasocial relationships, especially between creators and their followers, fans, whatever you want to call them.
This is the level of parasocial relationships that are not okay, and people need to start respecting and understanding boundaries that that is not your place, that is none of your business.
That may be a partial solution, but the encouragement to continue their simp behavior is well documented on Kaya and Co.'s TikTok, and some of that responsibility to maintain proper boundaries has to fall on the creator. There was one controversial topic I did not talk about in the first DissociaDID video, mostly because I don't want talking about it to seem like encouragement to doubt DissociaDID. And another reason I did not want to talk about this was because we hadn't heard anything firsthand from DissociaDID, and that's the most important perspective to hear before forming any opinions. At the DID party and sleepover in 2018 or 2019, Chloe experienced sexual harassment from an alter in Axolotls system. Axolotls Axolotls kept trying to bring out Nina, dissociated sexual alter who since integrated into Nin and then Nin into Kaya. Axolotls' behavior was very inappropriate and made Chloe very uncomfortable, so they requested Bobo and Co stay near them as a buffer. Bobo and Co, Entropy, and Axolotls have shared their thoughts on the situation, but we never heard about it from DissociaDID, which is interesting since some people said it was made up for attention, but if it was never shared by DissociaDID, how could they be seeking attention? Chloe told Bobo, and some others at the sleepover were also told, and eventually Bobo told Axolotls, who was first to address it online after apologizing to Chloe, but then in their post online said that they were falsely accused.
Nina came out and her and Kai from Axolotls' system were flirting, all consensual. And then we got back home to Multiplicity and Me's house and Chloe had switched back out. It made it very clear that Nina wasn't around anymore, that it was Chloe, but he was speaking in Chloe's ear using Nina's name and saying very overtly sexual things. Chloe was persistent in saying, that's making me really uncomfortable, can you please stop it, you're going to trigger Nina out, I don't want you to trigger Nina out, Nina doesn't want to be out right now. And Kai was not taking no for an answer, which obviously was really making me very nervous. When I got up to walk around and leave the room, he came right up against it. So I was standing here trying to walk between it. He came right up against it and pushed his shins up against mine. So my shins were kind of stuck against the couch, gently, but still. And again, he leaned in to say something. I do not remember what he said. Don't remember if he even said anything, because Jade switched in and she said very firmly with a raised voice, she said, enough. We went to the bathroom, knocked, and Bobo, I think, was doing her makeup or something. So she let us in and we said that Kai keeps talking to Nina in my ear and he's making me really, really uncomfortable. Can you please come and sit next to me so that he doesn't come and sit next to me? A year later, I don't know why, Bobo and Co tell Axolotls' system that we told them that Axolotls had sexually assaulted us. We didn't go to them and say, they sexually me or anything like that. We just said they're making me really uncomfortable, they've done this, and they apologized. We accepted their apology. They had a big live stream or something where they said that we had falsely accused them of sexual assault. Evangelina Skov covered it, and we said in a comment in that YouTube video from Evangelina, like, this was a really horrible way to find out, this is how we remember it, and we were really triggered when we were writing it and people came for our throats.
If you watched the last video, we showed some clips of Bobo discussing their friendship saga with DissociaDID and their experiences with Omega at the sleepover and 2 trips where the 2 systems got together, also with Team Pinata. Kaya's memory of the occurrences at the sleepover were very different than what Bobo shared. Bobo said that when Omega came out, it was very scary, saying Bobo was physically attacked and Omega was screaming in Bobo's face, which was very triggering, and then Chloe acted like nothing happened. Kaya said that Chloe did apologize profusely and checked in on Bobo to see if there was anything they could do to provide comfort, but Bobo said that they were fine.
And she's doing this to me, she's grabbing at me, she's screaming that she can't breathe in my face. She then starts scratching her neck. I had to just put on a brave face, just act like nothing happened. And she acted like nothing happened.
Omega, who was triggered because of the loud noise, and she started to cry. Quietly, she wasn't loudly bawling or anything like that, but she was crying and triggered and upset. And Bo was like, oh, come on, come with me, we'll go outside. And we went outside. I don't remember much of this, but from what Omega told me, Bobo was hugging her and stuff like that, while Omega was sort of apologizing, and then a little switched out. We went back in and everything was fine. I apologized to Bobo, Chloe apologized to Bobo a lot. I was very embarrassed, and they were very much it's literally fine, don't worry about it.
Yeah, of course, after somebody having a flashback in front of you, you're gonna say it's fine. It wasn't fine. Literally, I went home, I went up to the bedroom and had a panic attack. I've got really bad trauma around that sort of stuff, and having her visually act out in front of me wasn't good.
Both of them seem to have very solid and detailed memories that are completely different from another, and I can't say who is more believable. Bobo also talks about 2 visits, one where DissociaDID and Team Pinata came to their hometown, and also one where Bobo went to visit Nin. Most notably, when Kaya shared their side of these stories, they said that they had no idea Bobo was upset because Bobo never talked to them about it before telling the internet. However, this doesn't absolve them, because how could you do that stuff to your friend and then not expect them to be hurt? Especially when DissociaDID and Team Pinata went to Bobo's hometown for 5 days and spent less than 10 hours of those 5 days with Bobo. And when Bobo was going through a super rough few months and needed a friend, Nin wouldn't respond to messages for days. That is not being a supportive friend. They should not be this surprised that Bobo was feeling hurt. We also got some further context from Kaya. Apparently, something personal was happening at the time of Bobo's visit, and Bobo did not want to be alone, so they asked to stay with DissociaDID. Nin said that she would be happy to have Bobo come visit, but warned them that Team Pinata would also be there and that they hadn't seen each other for months and would want to be together. Plus, the trip is such a journey, and usually both Team Pinata and DissociaDID end up ill, which they would on this trip as well. Bobo allegedly said that they were fine with this. When Bobo talked about how the little went to ask for help in the middle of the night, they left out that Jeremy got up and took the little downstairs because DissociaDID sleeps topless and needed to put on a shirt. But then Nin went down and joined Jeremy and the little for some hot chocolate and made sure that she was okay before putting her back to bed. Bobo said they used the word push down the stairs, but didn't mean what people have interpreted. People are imagining that as shoved to the bottom of the stairs while the other person is at the top, but it was more like Bobo was ushered down the stairs by Jeremy. Kaya also talked about how they weren't yelling at Toast about breaking up with Casey, but Casey had been using Bobo's money without permission, and they got in a fight about it, and Nin was trying to explain to her friend that it isn't okay and they shouldn't be treated that way. Kaya also shared a few examples of Bobo's smoking habits, which Bobo did not want to be public information. Kaya didn't mention anything about the trip to Bobo's hometown, nor did they respond to being absent when Bobo really needed them. They did say that it was true that they didn't send money from the live stream to Bobo, but remembers offering to share the funds with them. But then they forgot and Bobo never reminded them, but Kaya said that if Bobo had, they'd be glad to send over the money. Bobo was really unhappy with the way they were spoken about in this video and felt their privacy was violated. Bobo tweeted, "This is fucking disgusting, holy shit. I actually can't believe you would hit me so low. How fucking dare you bring up my relationship or talk about my partner who is not a public figure. Bring up my relationship, accuse my partner of awful shit on top of randomly twisting old stories. This isn't clearing up stuff. This is a vicious attack on other creators to boost yourself. This is horrible. How dare you? If you weren't so hot on suing people, I would privacy claim that video since you were very clearly shared my tweets, shared intimate details of my relationships, and absolute slander. This is beyond horrific." However, while the tweets remain up, Bobo decided to make a video with their thoughts after having some time to process.
They can talk about me. They have every right to say their side about what happened with us, but they don't have a right to bring up my relationship, talk about what me and my partner are arguing about, if it was true or not. They just shed too much.
They're going through a really hard time in life and feel like they're being hit while they're down, and they're really not in a place to deal with drama. Bobo said they aren't mad that DissociaDID shared their side because they have every right to do so, but felt that they shared an unnecessary amount of personal information. They said that they felt like they were painted as a villain, but so many comments on the video say that that's not the impression people came away with. I also didn't get the message they were a villain, just very obviously had different perspectives from DissociaDID. I am glad to see many kind, supportive comments on the video, including one from BraiDID. BraiDID commented on the video saying, "Hey, I know you don't know us and might not get the best sense of us, but I just want to say, 1, I'm very, very sorry things got shared that were private. To our knowledge, you had shared those details before, but we should have been more thorough in confirming that. 2, again, we've never spoken directly, but I can tell you from what I've heard from Kaya and what we've seen, I promise you, we don't view you as a villain. Do I 100% agree with everything you've done in this situation? No, but that's going to be true for everyone involved. It's a messy situation, and when you have many people struggling with mental illnesses and then online hordes of people wanting blood and twisting words, things are bound to get bad. I'm just really, truly sorry if we added to any hurt, and we have seen what's been going on in the past few days with y'all online, and I just want to say that we do not condone that at all, and I'm so deeply sorry about what's going on. and while we don't know each other, we are here for you from one system to another if you ever want to reach out. Bobo liked this comment, but did comment back. Kaya and Charlie mentioned not talking about someone online when they aren't in a good headspace. It's very, very obvious they are not doing well, and this was terrible timing. Bobo wanted to clarify some accusations and misunderstandings, and since their platform is much smaller than DissociaDID, while I won't be sharing their personal situation, I want to share what they said in their video here and also encourage anyone invested in the situation to watch their video.
I believed Chloe. I protected her at the time. I wanted to keep Kai away from her. I took her home. I believed her. I trusted her.
They do not remember Nin offering them any money. They didn't want a whole portion of the live stream money, just the funds from the person who sent £333 so that each of them got £111. But they also said that it was 2 years ago and they don't care anymore. 3, Bobo said that they did believe and try to protect Chloe about the SA at the sleepover and was not trying to side with the abuser. They said they told Axolotls about the accusations because they thought Axolotls knew Chloe talked about it. They didn't think they were sharing any new information. They apologized and said that they weren't trying to be malicious. We wish Bobo and Code the best and hope they feel better soon. Also, Bobo, if you watch this, I love your sweater cat and the suitcase sleeper. Also, unrelated to Bobo but related to sweater pets, you guys were cracking me up with your responses to my sweater puppy joke in the last video. I digress, on to the next bit. People are most dissatisfied with the segment regarding Team Pinata. Kaya was telling people to have sympathy for Nan and giving background about their trauma to explain why Nan didn't know drawing that stuff was bad, but they'd never hurt anyone and isn't attracted to kids. Kaya said Nan suffered a brain injury following a bike accident, and that's when childhood trauma started coming back to their memory. People responded that this was not holding Team Pinata properly accountable and felt that Kaya and Charlie were making excuses and not taking the subject seriously. Kaya also said that the sneezing drawings were seen as cute and not sexual, but that's not what Nan wrote when describing their fetish. Kaya said Nan was very asexual and the only way they could get things going was through sneezing. I do think it's fair to point out that Nan is human and everyone has flaws, but I think that can be done without minimizing what they did. Kaya and Charlie said that the drawings were not okay, but also spoke of the incidents with very much lower severity than they were.
You've also been accused of defending them to other DID creators ahead of the DID conference that was planned.
I'm pretty sure that everyone involved still continued to speak after that first wave and that it was fine. So I'm not really sure about whether we felt we needed to defend them because no one was saying anything nasty at that point. Entropy System, they were like, have you seen this stuff? And we were like, how bad is it? Honestly, a lot of them I don't remember. And a lot of the stuff that people were calling child porn was like 15 to 16-year-old characters. Like not the kind of thing that the word CP would bring to mind. There was one which was sexually graphic, and that was from, I think, a 15 and a 16-year-old, and it was like a little comic. And they'd done that for themselves to explore their fetish, I think. They did not see the things that they did at the time as anything outside of what was a normal experience to them. After seeing it again 10 years later, I remember them being shocked.
When did your system fully end their relationship with Team Pinata?
It ended at the same time. By breaking off that relationship, we weren't just breaking off a fiance. It was friends, it was other relationships. I know that Nan, and I'm certain, has never, ever had any attraction to children. Ever. And I will die on that hill. I'm not saying that what they drew wasn't incredibly disturbing, but taking into account the kind of trauma that they went through, the fact that they didn't see that themselves as disturbing because they were told that was normal all through their life, does not surprise me. We need to remember that these people were victims of the same trauma that people are accusing them of.
Kaya addressed the accusations that their alters and inner roles were inspired by an Illuminati SRA book, saying they've never read the book and that it's not that weird for them to have a carousel in their inner world because back in the day, like 7 years ago, when they were a child, they loved carousels. Charlie said that the book was relatable to everyone and it's like a horoscope in which it's written vaguely enough for it to apply to anyone reading it, which is something that has been highly argued in the comments, saying the stories are far too similar and it's not a relatable book. It's also extremely f***ed up book from the descriptions I've read. I haven't read the book, but I would be very disturbed if it's highly relatable. But big trigger warning for torture and child abuse. The book is about using inhumane trauma tactics to mind control children. If Joseph Mengele, aka the Angel of Death or Monarch Mind Control, sound familiar, you'll get a feel for how absolutely f***ed up this book is. People feel there are too many similarities for it to be a coincidence. It's called How the Illuminati Create an Undetectable Total Mind-Controlled Slave, for crying out loud. That doesn't sound very relatable, and I'd sure hope it wouldn't be.
Yeah, no, we've never read the book, never had anything to do with said book, don't even really know that much about it, don't intend to learn more about it.
Kaya also discussed their diagnosis for quite some time and shared some emails and quoted documents to show the legitimacy of the diagnosis, and their arguments seemed very solid and confirmed by doctors.
Okay, your system has indicated in the past that you were diagnosed by Dr. Remy Aquarone. There is some controversy on his ability to issue a formal DID diagnosis.
He can give a diagnosis, but some NHS trusts will also want a backup from a psychiatrist. Dear Chloe, enclosed with this letter are the detailed results of the diagnostic assessments using DES taxon, A/DES, SDQ20, and SCID-D, Structured Clinical Interview for Dissociative Disorders. It says, based on this evaluation, Chloe's symptoms are consistent with a primary diagnosis of a dissociative disorder. More particularly, her experiences of severe symptoms of amnesia, derealization, depersonalization, identity confusion, and identity alteration, as well as the presence of several different parts who exist within her and assume executive control of her behavior, are consistent with a diagnosis of dissociative identity disorder, DID.
They also pointed out that Multiplicity and Me got diagnosed by the same doctor and traveled hours to go to that specific doctor, but it was just the closest doctor to DissociaDID, yet Multiplicity and Me never have people being speculative about their diagnosis, only DissociaDID.
I've never seen anybody say that about Multiplicity and Me. We lived in the same town at that point as the Pottergate Centre, so we travelled like, I don't know what, 20 minutes to him, because he was the closest one to us, whereas Multiplicity and Me travelled from a different country.
Speaking of Multiplicity and Me, Kaya retold the story of getting cast for Anthony Padilla's show, and it was very different from the story that we heard from Multiplicity and Me.
Who received the invitation to be on Anthony Padilla's show in that interview?
We were both reached out to by a casting agency who at the time was working for Anthony and Anthony's team. So they knew that we'd received this. I have the, I don't know if you can see that. You can see that they reached out to me. I did not contact them. So yeah, February 5th they were filming, and I saw it 4 days after they sent the message, which was 2nd of February. So I thought, oh crikey, well this person only works for the casting company. Yeah. What if the actual production team from Anthony don't see it in time? So what I did was I went to their YouTube channel, and it's listed on there like what their contact is, and I sent them an email that was saying, hi, I'm really sorry I didn't see this earlier, but one of your scouts invited us to join filming for your DID project. If you're still happy to have us, we'd love to be involved. And we got an email the next day that, hi Nin, this is her name, Anthony Padilla's production assistant. Thank you so much for reaching out about our upcoming DID interview. If you're still interested, we would love for you to be a part of it. So I got this email back. The first thing I did was send it to their group chat to be like, look, I got a response from this email if you email them too, you might also get a response. Instead of doing that, which they absolutely could have done, they left the group chat. What I understood was that they had messaged the casting company back and forth, and that they screenshotted me, and the last screenshot that I saw was that the casting company had said that they would pass Multiplicity and Me's email onto the team. The team had not called Multiplicity and Me. If I hadn't sent that email off and stuff like that, I don't know what they would have done, because they didn't have any confirmation they would go. They didn't have any plans to fly out.
There's probably some truth in each perspective, but their stories are just so different, so it's hard to really know what happened. I guess that's sort of how all of this was. Everyone seems to remember events just a little bit differently, but share their stories equally convincingly. When talking about romanticizing the disorder and showing the alters is so different when this is a hidden disorder, they said they didn't think they were exaggerating or romanticizing, and that the way their alters front in public is very different from when they are in the privacy of their own home.
When you're filming something and have the time and have the environment to set it up, to be able to actually present as yourself, that's not sensationalizing, that's just expressing yourself.
I don't know how we could have assimilated anyone else's trauma into our own trauma history, and people are calling us out for it, considering the fact that we've never spoken about our trauma publicly online, ever. But
yeah.
Let's just remember, none of that is actual fact. It's conspiracy theories that are being thrown around that a lot of people have decided are facts.
How I always have viewed your videos, especially from back then, is a lot of it I see of not only trying to get word out to other systems and like get that feeling of community and like I'm not alone, but also trying to educate the people without DID about what's being misinformed by media. You gotta use that type of clickbait sometimes to be able to pull that kind of audience in, because they're not going to seek it out otherwise.
DissociaDID said that they're not sure if they'll go back to making videos, but if they do, they don't want to share false information by accident. But they really don't know if they'll be back with new content, so I guess we'll see.
They've lied about this. What else have they lied about? They're pulling the wool over our eyes. No, we're just dumb sometimes. Like, we just make human mistakes.
Your system previously stated that you were expelled from your
No!
university.
Sorry, no, we've been so clear about this so many times. We were never expelled. We were intercalating.
Well, that's all the major stuff that was discussed in this video. Again, while I have some suspicions and am not satisfied with some of the responses, they shared a lot of information, and this must have been really hard to do, and it's not like anyone is entitled to this information. Most people are very happy with the video and the accountability taken, though some people feel the opposite. The purpose of this video is not to persuade you either way or tell you what to believe, just to share the information from the video with a few thoughts here and there to help you make your own informed decision. We do encourage you to watch their video if you have the time, and to always take everything with a grain of salt. There's no way to prove the legitimacy of the claims from DissociaDID or anyone who has told a different story. While I'm not telling you what to believe when it comes to DissociaDID specifically, I will say that in general, malingering mental illness has become a fad on social media, and it is an enormous problem. I hope they continue to grow and take care of themselves and heal. They have helped a lot of people, and the good that they've done is so important too. Please be kind to everyone. Try not to jump to the worst conclusions. And remember, you don't know what other people are experiencing or have experienced in their past, but no one needs to be unnecessarily cruel. I think that's the best takeaway here. And before we go, here is a little eye bleach for you.